And honestly, that's when I realized that Bayindir didn't know how to tie his own shoelaces, to be honest. Yeah, any further questions? Look, Ruben, times have been tough. Historically bad for Manchester United. Will you ever just give up on this project? Yeah, thank you for the question. You see, the problem is, give up isn't in my vocabulary. Open up a dictionary, the whole G part is completely missing. The only G here is me. No matter what it takes, no matter what I have to sacrifice, I will turn this ship around. I will bring Manchester United back to where they deserve to be. I am the man for the job.
It's developing 10 years, no prem. Where the hell you been? 10th in the table, I never felt closer. That's how deep I believe in and I'm a rim. One thing you should know about me is I pray for a manifested everything you see, and I'm trying to do the same for my team. I can't do it on my own, so listen to me if you want to win the league.
Yeah, you know what, actually, I've had a second, I'm resigning, bro. It's a mad... Yo guys, it is your boy Newman here, and you are watching FTW. This, of course, the series where I bring to you the best and more frequently the worst of what football has to offer during the last 7 days. But what has been kicking off in the world this week? Well, off the coast of Florida, and one crew made a bountiful discovery, finding long-lost Spanish treasure worth $1 million deep in the sea. 1 million. You could buy 1 million cheeseburgers, a couple of supercars, or at the current value, about 1,000 Jadon Sanchos.
Certain man don't even get to that age.
Or this.
Claims that many male drivers...
Say it! Is that it?
Yeah, look, I don't mean to be rude, but that's just a set of pebbles, mate. I know this diver was left frustrated after risking his life for 100 pieces of concrete. Now, onto the football, and newsflash, it was titting international break. Cut! What do you mean I can't say tits? It's on the teleprompter. Yeah, it's not my fault Janine accidentally uploaded her nudes onto it. This week has had less life to it than Margaret Thatcher's 100th birthday party, but it did at least have national teams preparing for the World Cup, where there'll be 15 shots on target before a game's even kicked off. The XG is through the roof here, Darren. That's expected gore, by the way. Yeah, no, it's a madness outside the ground right now. Despite all of that nonsense, though, and England did all they needed to do to book a return flight to the Americas. Come on, England! Oh. Not that Jack Grealish will know where he's going.
I don't know what that means.
England first defeated Wales in a pretty comprehensive win at Wembley. We could have scored more, truthfully, but a 3-0 scoreline will do for Tuchel's Tetley T army. Anthony Gordon, I thought, impressed quite a lot in this one, as did Bukayo Saka, who scored an absolute banger for England's third. To be fair, I'm not particularly surprised this was an easy game given Wales' lineup versus us. We got live images of Bukayo Saka cutting inside versus a Sikh man aged 67 and from Leeds. Declan Rice and Peas, meanwhile, was with a very different kind of gunner this week. Hi, what? Yeah, you're a gunman as well, yeah? What? He was showing off the slang he'd learnt from gunner to Bukayo Saka at half-time.
Oh, man, just topped him off like it was nothing. Mama loves, it's a madness.
Jed Spence, meanwhile, locked up his Tottenham teammate Brennan Johnson in the Spence penitentiary, but Thomas Tuchel wasn't quite as impressed with the home support. He said there was absolutely no atmosphere at Wembley. When they scored their first goal, you could basically hear a pin drop. And to be honest, ultimately he's right. Like, the atmosphere at England games, especially qualifiers, is never going to be that great. It always feels like more of a family day out or a children's event half the time. I'll be in the crowd folding paper aeroplanes instead of watching Harry Kane score his fourth. When England supporters got a chance to show their volume at an away game against Latvia a few days later, they chanted, "Are we loud enough for you?" at the England manager. Tuchel did at least take it pretty well in the press conference afterwards.
How would you respond to that? You see the funny side?
Yeah, I got a bit of stick today in the first half. I was almost in every song, so fair enough.
And I like the fact that he can react, you know, with a sense of humour as well. Those away fans were treated to an absolute battering of Latvia as England won 5-0 and booked their place officially at the World Cup of 2026. They weren't, however, treated to a very good view of the action. Absolutely appalling seats, I'm not gonna lie to you. What's even the point of going, bro? This guy's got a slip and slide in front of him. He gets a notification from Sky Sports on his phone before he even sees the goal going in real life. This man's still seeing Phil Neville playing. He's back in time, bro. Oh yeah, hang on, let me just focus in. Yeah, there we go. I can just about see the ball board. Harry Kane was on stat padding business again. Meanwhile, Jed Spence shamelessly added to his right back penitentiary, putting in a Latvian plumber and father of 4. As mentioned, we are now through to the tournament proper, and given the draws and groups that we tend to get, I'm half expecting to see Uzbekistan, Gibraltar, Dagenham and Redbridge's under-23s, and a smoked salmon bagel in our group for this one. Now, speaking of batterings, and Austria looked at a poor, defenseless and weak San Marino side and absolutely fucking stamped them into the ground. Austria beat San Marino in World Cup qualifying 10-0. 10. Double figures. What did you call me? It doesn't even fit on 433's graphic of the scoreline. Hater Central just posted their flag over on Twitter. I think that's really all you needed to say. And the San Marino Twitter account itself was not really having a great time. Marko Arnautovic scored 4 in this one at the age of about 43. Him going and grabbing the ball, and taking it to the center circle at 7-0 is absolutely crazy work. Austria obviously wanted some pretty good goal difference out of this one. And to be honest, I think San Marino were just happy to be there.
If that's my role, I'll take it. As long as I'm involved.
Their goalkeeper allegedly is out of their next match with back pain from picking the ball out of his own net. Meanwhile, San Marino's manager was packing things in after about 47 minutes. I just feel bad for any San Marino fans that are making the journey on these away days. There we go, kickoff. Oh, how proud I am to support my nation. Endless road trips, couple of beers at the pub beforehand, and now we sit down to cheer on the lad. Giovanni with 3-0 down. 3-0 down. I haven't even sat down properly yet, pal. We've conceded 3 goals. And another incredible thing about this game, not only the fact that Austria scored 10, but every single outfielder on the pitch for them, or certainly in the starting 11, got a goal contribution. When was the last time that even happened? Oh, man, I love San Marino. I'm so sorry, guys. So we take a quick break from World Cup qualifying for a transmission from Brazil.
I want to kill me!
Brazil decided to book in a friendly against Japan and used it to practice their game plan ahead of the World Cup of 2026. Unfortunately, their game plan is to be an absolute disappointment to everybody. They were 2-0 up in this one before losing 3-2. Clearly, the rare reverse eyebrow being used by Carlo Ancelotti. Bro lifted the wrong one. I have a theory here. I reckon Japan intentionally went 2-0 down in this one so that they could get some action and footage for Blue Lock. To be fair to Brazil, their back 5 looks like it's straight out of Pro Evo 6. What the fuck is a Hugo Sousa, mate? Brazil's usual number 1, Alisson, is injured, of course, at the moment, as per usual. And he was chilling back at Liverpool's training complex watching the game with Japanese international teammate Wataru Endo. I'm sure things got a little bit tense when Japan took the lead. In fairness, Brazil did slap South Korea 5-0 earlier on in the international window, with 2 goals coming from youngster Estevao, a brace as well from Rodrigo, and then a goal from Vinny Jr. South Korea battered. All I know is that Kim Jong-un will be watching on at home delighted. Korean TV specialists even happier knowing they don't even have to Photoshop South Korea's scorelines for this one. And Norway continued a mental World Cup qualifying campaign with an absolute smacking of Israel. 5-0 the scoreline here, and I can only imagine these 5 goals were promised to Israel 3,000 years ago. This one's so one-sided. I mean, Norway have been, performing very, very well, but barely so much as a shot from Israel. Probably because there were no civilians around. So Erling Haaland actually managed to miss back-to-back penalties in this game. He took one, missed, had to take it again due to encroachment, and then missed again, but then still went crazy with his goal scoring in the game anyway. I mean, his scoring record for this season is an absolute joke. And the crazy thing is, this is totally what we expect from Erling Haaland anyway. Norway are literally bringing a heat-seeking Intel Core i11 CPU to this World Cup. And the likes of Uzbekistan are about to get absolutely mullered by it. Centre-backs at the World Cup won't know what to do when he gets into flow state. 18 points from a possible 18. As I mentioned, Norway have been so good. Elsewhere in this group, and Italy are firmly on the back foot after being beaten by Norway, but they at least grabbed a 3-0 victory, sending Israel packing. We didn't even need FIFA to ban these lot, to be honest with you, because they're too arse to even make it to the tournament anyway. Israel's hotel had snipers on the top of it before this match, Retegui having to dodge bullets just to fire in Italy's third for this one. Meanwhile, Palestine's official Twitter account quoted the fact that they were going home simply with an emoji of Italian food in pasta. It's a shithousery award. It simply has to be, doesn't it really? Now, an absolute miracle took place over in African qualifying, and that was in the form of Cabo Verde, a small selection of islands off the west coast of Africa. They managed to qualify for the World Cup by topping their group, a group that has Cameroon in it, despite only having a population of around 500,000. They become the second smallest nation to ever play at a World Cup, behind only Iceland, and a pitch invasion at full time for their supporters. I mean, it was beautiful to see. It really cannot be understated how miraculous this is. They're not exactly in a piss-easy group. There are significantly bigger nations that perform worse than them, and the fact that they have made it is absolutely incredible. I mean, there's probably office blocks in India that have a higher population than Cabo Verde. 1.4 billion people in India, and they haven't even accidentally created one wonder kid. They even be able to put 11 players together. It was also an astounding story for defender Pico Lopez, captain of Shamrock Rovers. There's your update for this week. This man was only recruited by Cabo Verde's FA via LinkedIn, and he almost slipped through the net. He received a message from them after the FA realised that he has part nationality to play for them, only the message was in Portuguese, and Pico Lopez, surprisingly I guess, can't actually speak Portuguese. Not understanding it, the email therefore had him a little bit confused. So he thought it was a bit of a scam, didn't open it. It was only until about 7 months later when they actually emailed again in English that he hastily decided to accept their invitation. And now he's going to a World Cup. It's great news for World Cup cameramen as well, as they can scope out even more baddies in the crowd instead of a 4v1 counter-attack. These lot will be scanning everywhere and pulling out all the stops to try and pull afterwards.
Today I feel African.
Watching these versus Jordan is going to be absolutely class. I know there's been a lot of pushback against the expansion of the World Cup, and to be honest, I am kind of against it as well from the perspective of overworking players, but I think 48 is kind of fine. I think that's the absolute limit. We shouldn't be going to 64. But I do think it strikes a nice balance of, although there might be a few more games, we do get some cool nations qualifying. There's people talking about, oh, it doesn't mean as much because it's as easy as it's ever been to qualify for a World Cup. Do you think fans of Cabo Verde give a fuck about that, mate? No. Elsewhere in CAF qualifying, and South Africa are through to the World Cup proper as well for the first time since they hosted the tournament back in 2010. Ladies and gentlemen, get your fucking jabalanis out. I'm about to flash back to the greatest period of my entire life. Meanwhile, Shakira's hips are already preparing to tell the truth in preparation. This South Africa squad, they've even got Shabalala in the team as well. It's only right, man. Anfield agenda is absolutely fuming seeing all these African teams qualifying. Meanwhile, Donald Trump has now remembered that foreigners have actually got to come for the World Cup now that they're hosting it. I think this South African story is underrated. You wouldn't have said that they were massive favourites to go and qualify for the World Cup. Again, they haven't played in it for 15 years, but it's also incredible and it highlights how strong their domestic league is. Their entire starting 11 for this final game against Rwanda are all players in their domestic division. That is absolutely class. It comes though at the expense of Nigeria, who were also in this group. Victor Osimhen scored a hat-trick in the final game against Benin, but it was only enough for a playoff spot. Maybe if we decided to play football in this group before the final game, we might have made it into an automatic one instead. I can be seen waiting for Nigeria's national team to enrich my life to any degree at all. Meanwhile, we were relying on Rwanda in the other game. These guys sponsor Arsenal. We shouldn't expect anything out of them. Pierre-Emerick Aubameyang saw Victor Osimhen score 3 and decided to raise one up a little bit for Gabon, grabbing 4 goals and then getting a red card, I can only assume for bullying children from the Gambia. The ref knew exactly what to do when Aubameyang said he wanted to score a 5th in this game. He fully got bored. Either that or he got backache from carrying the entire nation. Over in Cameroon, and fans of Brian and Burma got a message for Ruben Amorim asking the forward to talk to him about maybe switching to 4-3-3. First of all, why the fuck is this on an Armenia flag? Second of all, we got random guys from Cameroon asking Amorim to change tactics, bro, and he still thinks he's onto a winner. Shout out to Sao Tome and Principe, a nation of 250,000 inhabitants. A pretty tiny country, to be honest, globally speaking, but certainly from a footballing perspective. They won a World Cup qualifier for the first time in a decade. 10 years the last time they picked up 3 points. Really, really impressive for a country with a smaller population than Blackpool. In Portugal, and Cristiano Ronaldo was making history. He's now grabbed the most goals scored ever by any player across their career in World Cup qualifiers. Now he's just got to try and do it in an actual tournament. 40 goals in World Cup qualifiers in your career is absolutely crazy. But wait, hang on a second. What's that? It's Luxembourg, man. One Portuguese kid and mascot could not pass up the opportunity for a hug from Cristiano. But it wasn't all smiles for Big Ron, as Dominic Szoboszlai made Portugal wait to qualify for the World Cup just a little bit longer with a late strike. Dominic, of course, asked Cristiano Ronaldo for his shirt a month ago when the two sides faced off. Then Ron kept up his part of the deal, though he will be ripping that shirt back off him again after Dominic scored a late equaliser here. At Denmark, and they battered Belarus 6-0, with Rasmus Højlund scoring 2 and grabbing an assist. Lads, get out of your toxic relationships, because as soon as Rasmus Højlund's done it, he's flourished away from United. Who's the problem now, Ruben? He then made it 6 goals in his last 4 with a strike against Greece.
What is going on here?
It now means the Danish striker's only 951 goals away from 1,000. Anytime now, Rasmus. Spain, meanwhile, won 4-0 this week, thanks to a brace from Marino. The Arsenal midfielder is cooking again. This man turns into a completely different footballer when he's used his passport within a 24-hour time period. He was doing bits from midfield, as was Aymeric Laporte, clearly, because he was wearing a number 10, despite being a centre-back.
Oh, the guy's got it.
Over in the named after things you could find in a supermarket derby, and Turkey beat Georgia 4-1. I know Dominic Szoboszlai, in his hatred for Arda Güler, he's absolutely fuming in his car. Meanwhile, the Faroe Islands pulled out a shock victory against Czechia to put themselves third in their World Cup qualifying group and genuinely give themselves a chance to actually make it to the tournament proper. I don't have any jokes for these lot, by the way. The population of the Faroe Islands is a joke in comparison to the likes of Czechia. The surface area of the Faroe Islands is a joke in comparison to Czechia. These lot should not even slightly be doing what they are doing. Putting themselves genuinely in with a chance to qualify is incredible for a country that only became a FIFA member in like 1988 and could borderline be considered minnows of the entirety of Europe or micro nation. So fair play to them, really impressive. Over in Belgium, and they were visited by a four-legged friend, Thibaut Courtois having to catch a rat on the pitch. This man truly can catch anything. Though I think this situation may have looked a little bit different from Kevin De Bruyne's standpoint. Speaking of surprise victories, and Kosovo have done a number over Sweden again. Last month, they beat the Swedes 2-0 and relegated Sweden to the bottom of the group here with a second victory. It's actually crazy that these lot are doing so badly with Victor Gyökeres and Alexander Isak up front. Gyökeres is going to be depressed realizing Sweden are playing Wakanda in 2026 instead of going to the World Cup. Meanwhile, Isak is a completely different person when he's paired alongside Maskman. These lot, if they're not careful, they're going to get relegated out of World Cup qualifying. We need to slap them in the Conference League or something. Unsurprisingly, their manager's been sacked. But on the flip side, look, I'm not getting involved in Balkan politics, okay? Because I'd prefer to stay alive, if I'm being real. But I do love Kosovo, man. They got something about them. They could be real underdogs as well for this World Cup qualifying campaign. In Korea, and Heung-min Son couldn't believe his eyes when Kim Min-jae told him to look at a mascot's head in front of him. Turns out that kid had Sonny shaved into his head. That is so cool. Unsurprisingly, Heung-min Son was quick to tell him that he loved it. Meanwhile, there was unexpected hooliganism going on in Asia between the United Arab Emirates and Qatar. Qatar managed to qualify for the World Cup in this game, and the UAE supporters were not happy at all. These are gone from Dubai chocolate and matcha to Stella Artois and hooligans, bro. Now back in England, and one situation has taken over Twitter. This is really the only thing that's actually happened this international break, and that is the Jadon Sancho situation. He has been allegedly exposed by the former manager, or I guess kind of boss, of his rumoured partner, Saweetie, who's like a rapper. But judging from what this manager is saying, I think used to be, or it kind of maybe still is, in the escort business. I think the allegation here is basically Jadon Sancho hired her. Jadon Sancho was a client at one point of Saweetie's services. Then they kind of fell in love and didn't pay the boss for like making the deal happen. Like they could all be seen together in pictures at Stamford Bridge when Jadon was on loan at Chelsea. Now, to be honest, in terms of this part of the situation, I just hope everything was actually above board and the girl wasn't like taken advantage of or anything. Aston Villa are looking at him causing this many issues and wanting to offload the kid even though they don't actually own him.
One of the club teams loaned the player, and that team sold the player, bro. I swear on my life.
This guy's got 8 minutes for Villa this season. This is not the freedom that he was promised. Erik ten Hag, meanwhile, will be watching on smugly, seeing the rest of his career play out from this point onwards. She also alleged that he has a balloon addiction, or certainly had one in his time at Chelsea. That must have got awkward when Christopher Nkunku scored. Pass me a little bit of that one, bro. And he could be seen man-marking a balloon vendor at the end of a night. Obviously, that is all alleged and absolutely not confirmed whatsoever. But I do, look, I know Jadon's career is really not going how it's supposed to be, like on or off the pitch. But if he's still suffering from that, I hope that he gets the help that's needed, because that's not, it's pretty serious. Either way, I'm gonna need him to lock in and make better decisions, man, because the actual potential ability this guy has to see things playing out like this is just sad. One man that Jadon would probably be hoping to follow in the footsteps of was Marcus Rashford, another man who was out on loan at Aston Villa from United last season. He, in an interview this week, said that United has been an inconsistent environment for a long time now, and United fans aren't too pleased about it. I don't understand why they're getting at him. Like, yes, he was also inconsistent during that time. Like, Marcus Rashford, I'm sure, made bad decisions in his time at Old Trafford towards the end, yeah? But why do you think you're still shit now? He clearly was not the issue. It's obviously a correct statement that it's an inconsistent environment. It probably did contribute to how bad he was as well. Now, though, it's time for your goals of the week, and we have got some bangers this time. The first two actually coming from the same league. A new league as well, the Australian Championship. The newly formed second division in Australian football has provided two absolute screamers in its first week. First of all, as Kazuya Yamamura picked up the ball on the halfway line and looped it over the goalkeeper. And the second one is incredible, actually, because arguably it shouldn't have stood. A throw-in was taken and launched towards Jackson Stevens, only for another ball to be thrown onto the pitch by a fan. Either way, Jackson Stevens volleyed it, looping over the keeper into the top corner. A crazy, crazy goal. And an even more mental one coming from India, where a goalkeeper has got fed up with his outfielders, has charged out of his own goal, smacked one from distance. It's cannoned off the crossbar back towards him, and he struck a volley as sweetly as you possibly can right back into the top corner. Returned with interest. Hello all, and welcome to The Beautiful Game, the segment where we take a look at the poetic and brilliant side of the game that we love. We are back by popular demand for yet more glorious beauty.
¿Cómo viene Plaza, Javier? ¿Viene con algún cambio?
Se viene una variante.
Yep, so I'm looking at the results here, Mr. Valenzuela. That's the last kid you're having. Shit! And that concludes the beautiful game. Now, over in Spain, and Barcelona always have new sponsors for their El Clasico games against Real Madrid. They're sponsored by Spotify, but every season they'll collaborate with 2 A-list artists and put their album on the front of their shirt. This year, they've gone for Ed Sheeran. Yeah, listen, I don't think this one. Jules Koundé's going to be depressed when he realizes this deal involves having music actually played by Ed Sheeran in the dressing room. So for Lamine Yamal, there's at least positives when he finds out there's girls in Galway.
He was wearing glasses. And not this.
Speaking of Lamine, he posted this picture over on his Insta, rinsing, I think, his little brother. His screenshot's absolutely ridiculous. He's stat padding toddlers, for fuck's sake. What he did to his brother afterwards, though, even more outrageous. At Granada, though, now, and they needed a hero. The first team shot stopper, Lucas Zidane, was away on international duty with Algeria, and their next 2 goalkeeping options were away with Spain's youth sides. Step forward, their goalkeeper for the B team, who stepped in to make his full professional debut and kept a clean sheet in it as well. That massive props to the kid. That's absolutely sensational. And a really wholesome story coming from Sevilla. Their defender, Marçal, his wife has been battling with cancer recently. But thankfully for her and Marçal and her family, she's come through the other side of it. And the rest of Sevilla's players, their reaction and the gift that they got for her is really, really touching, honestly. It's really great to see how the football community can come together, especially in trying times like these. And I wish her and Marçal good health to come. Over in Germany, and Borussia Dortmund have confirmed that the naked cowboy has now put some clothes on. I don't know what this means, lads. I'm not gonna lie to you, but they tweeted in it, so I asked them. The next story technically happened last week, but I just didn't include it by accident, and it was a nasty collision that happened in a Schalke game. It involved Loris Karius, who came out to claim the ball and just accidentally collided with an attacking opponent who was knocked out on the spot. He was lying on his back, and thankfully Schalke defender Nikola Katic made a potentially life-saving intervention, turn him onto his side, get him into the recovery position, and stop him from swallowing his tongue. Massive props to him for thinking so quickly in the moment. Meanwhile, there was controversy being caused at Verde Bremen's women's side, where one of their players, upon beating Hamburg in the league, decided to display a cardboard cutout of a shit emoji with HSV's logo on it. Now, this did not go down well amongst Hamburg officials and their management and stuff. She came out and said she didn't mean to offend anyone. Then what did you mean to do, fam? I'm not gonna lie to you, because for what it's worth, though, the fact that she has to apologize for this is woke nonsense. It's really not that deep. It's just a bit of shithousery, in my opinion. Meanwhile, in France, and we got to see Didier Drogba in action, bringing out one, maybe potentially final knee slide in a charity match for his former side, Le Mans. In Turkey now, and İlkay Gundogan, of course, signed for Galatasaray from Manchester City over the summer. Apparently, his first action upon joining the club was to see a jar of Nutella in the club's canteen and ban it permanently for being too unhealthy. This man's first assist was banning hazelnut spread, for fuck's sake. Mauro Icardi, meanwhile, couldn't believe his eyes when he spotted the jar as well.
Nutella. Peanut butter.
Imagine poor Luke Shaw signing for Galatasaray and finding out that Twix bars have been banned.
He said I was a fat, smelly cunt. I want this man to be no more.
You know what, İlkay? What about you ban the possibility of not having any mates? Let's see how that does for you. He's going to be absolutely apoplectic when he realizes that this country created Turkish delight. Staying on the theme of Turkey, and one supporter of Galatasaray has this stadium view from their apartment. That is absolutely insane. All I'm going to say is if this was based in England, you're not getting away with it, fam. The ticket inspector will be right there to get you. You're in the home end. I think the scene will change quite drastically when Galatasaray can see the 97th minute winner. Up in Scotland, and Steven Gerrard, former Rangers manager, has rejected the chance to re-manage them or return back to the club, probably because he saw the last manager getting waterboarded outside of the Ibrox. In the US, and Lionel Messi agreed to a shirt swap with a fan who couldn't believe his luck, to be honest with you, when Big Leo decided to accept, only he then didn't actually return serve and give him his shirt as well. This is an absolute disgrace.
Did you see what I did there?
It's a scam.
Meanwhile, Leo's bodyguard has actually got tech. He pulled out this vicious volley from outside of the area, and of course he celebrated by doing jiu-jitsu or some shit. Over in India now, and we might have found the next Manuel Neuer, because this triple save that has been pulled out is absolutely glorious. Someone give him a professional contract just off the back of that. That's insane. In Nicaragua's World Cup qualifying now, and they were facing off against Haiti in flipping mental conditions. I mean, the rainfall was nuts here. Storms all over the gaff, and it clearly took took out the electricity and power in the stadium for a little bit. We want a big shout out to Curacao, who claimed 2 big results this week as they aim to become the smallest nation to ever qualify for the World Cup. In Argentina, meanwhile, and oh no, not these lot again. It's pretty brief at least, lads, I'm not gonna lie. For some reason, Wanda Nara is presenting MasterChef over in Argentina, and her former partner, Maxi Lopez, whom she cheated on with Mauro Icardi in the first place, is on it as well. Best believe he's putting poison in that for her to test at the end of the show. I know it. Closer to home, Shoreham were involved in a mental game this week. They were 6-1 up against Guernsey, only to bottle the 5-goal lead and lose 7-6 by the end. And just in case you thought it couldn't get any worse for Shoreham supporters, their club responded to this 6-7 defeat with the 6-7 meme. Fam, guys, come on. Now really is not the time. Penny for Mr. Goalstorts in this one, though. This guy scored 6 and he still lost. Goals by name, goals by nature, I suppose. Speaking of 6-7, and Michael Antonio decided to bring it out for the FA Cup draw. How does this man even know what that is? Reading fans were asking Exeter City goalkeeper Joe Whitworth to come up with a chant for himself. He duly obliged. Over at Hartlepool, and they announced their squad for an FA Cup clash against Gainsborough, and it featured Alex Reid on the bench. Someone might want to tell Alex Reid that information because he was sat watching the game at home. Further afield though now, and Arturo Vidal met up with a fan with the same trim as him. Football really is a lifelong passion though elsewhere, as this old fella's still kicking it down by the nearest Aldi. In Brazil now, and lads, come on, like what are we doing here? This is football, not water polo, for God's sake. There are incredible scenes in Serie C in Brazil where Londrina and São Bernardo are playing against each other. A draw would have got both teams promoted, and that's what they decided to play out. I don't know if they did it on purpose, but either way, it did lead to both sets of supporters and, well, players obviously celebrating at the same time as the full-time whistle blew. Though not quite the same sort of positivity going on in Nigeria at Kano Pillars, who charged onto the pitch after a poor refereeing decision. Hopefully, the ref and officials got out of there unscathed, but come on, guys, it's never that deep. Now though, it's time for Still 0-0, and you guys know the score by now. This is a segment of the show where I bring to the best of Sunday League and amateur football. And look, whilst Sunday League, it's not quite as full on, right? You can't take it as seriously as professional football. It doesn't mean you can quite be as casual though as this guy who's turned up to play centre back in a pair of jeans.
Your trousers are funny, fam.
On to the weird stuff though now. First of all, and it's been an up and down week for a third tier side in Bulgaria. Meet Badin Vidin. I didn't even read that before I read it out. What a name, lads. Carry on doing your thing. These lot, look, as I said, they play in the 3rd division, of Bulgaria. And this week in the league, they were unfortunately beaten 2-0 by a reserve side. Etar's reserve team, or B team, basically, defeated them 2-0, which was, pretty upsetting, I'm sure, for them, and probably nonsensical for them when they then went and beat Etar's senior team, or actual A team, in the cup. How'd you lose to the B team in the league and then beat the A team in the cup? That makes no sense at all. Elsewhere, and in World Cup qualifying between Costa Rica and Nicaragua, things got very, very crazy before the game had even started. In absolute peak CONCACAF moment, the Costa Rican police force barged their way into Nicaragua's dressing room with an arrest warrant. Now, I don't think it's actually been released as to who they wanted to arrest, but the reason firmly has been they wanted to detain the player because of a lack of child support being paid to a former partner and obviously to their kid. The player wasn't arrested, but apparently an agreement was made for the sum of money to be paid after the match, but it didn't help Nicaragua, who were defeated 4-1 in the end by Costa Rica. But finally, in a bit of feel-good news, and shout out to Malaysian Faisal Halim. He was the victim of a despicable act, actually. One of the worst things, really, that's happened in football, I would say, over the last couple of years. He was the victim of an acid attack back in May of 2024. There's a long story into how that happened and the reasons behind it from a footballing perspective. Thankfully, though, Faisal was able to make a comeback and even played for the first time this week for Malaysia since the incident happened. So welcome back to international football, wishing him the best moving forward. Although the rest of the Malaysian team is a bit of a fucking mess at the moment, so I'm sorry to you on that one, pal. That, though, is going to wrap up football this week, and I hope you have enjoyed it. If you have, then feel free to slap a like on the video, and of course, subscribe if you are new to the channel. You can also follow me on social media. It is at @theofficialfng on Twitter and on Insta. It's been a pleasure ranting at you guys today. Have a wonderful day, enjoy yourselves, and goodbye.